All right, so today we're working inside our 2023 Raptor. A lot of what you see today is going to apply to any F-Series truck newer than 2021, especially those that have the work surface center console. We're going to do two things. We're going to do a 10-cent mod to help with the springs, lifting the cover. If you've got one of these, you know that's a problem. And then we're going to install one of our tech plates inside the lid. A lot of people use these to mount a flashlight, pens, knives, that sort of stuff. So let's get to it. All right, so what we're going to use is our small tech plate. We're going to use a red hardware kit. We do have black and blue as well, but I kind of like the contrast of the red. And we're going to use 2 nickels. There's going to be a bunch of stuff I'm going to set aside because I'm going to use that stuff for other projects. But I know that what I'm going to need is 4 of these tall spacers in order to clear some of the trim inside the cover. I'm going to use 4 of these countersunk washers. And then I'm going to use 4 of these stainless steel flathead machine screws. So this tech plate is 7.5 by 10 inches. It will fit either vertically. I've seen people do that. It will also fit in here. Flat it will not fit, but with spacers, it'll clear these 2 little nubs, which are just used to support these surfaces that ride to keep the lids from sliding side to side. So we're going to we'll pop this cover off and we'll mock it up and we'll put it right here. Okay, so this is held up by a spring, and the spring kind of has like some fingers on it that push against a plate, and the plate is underneath this trim piece. So I'm going to attempt to carefully pry this trim piece off, figure out kind of where it ends and starts. It looks like get under it right here. Do the same thing on this side. Must be one more in there. There we go. Broke 0 clips.
Wow.
All right, so there's 2 springs here, and there's 2 longer tangs that hang down here, one here and one there. So what we're gonna try and do is pry this one up far enough to slip a nickel, or you could slip kind of anything in here. What that's gonna do is basically move this surface out and put some additional preload into the spring. All right, got the first one in there.
Barely caught it. Is there any way to put it up?
There's a little metal tab right next to this, I think. That maybe prevent it. I can get it up a little bit more probably.
But, I mean, if the lip of the nickel isn't gonna let it fall out.
It's in there.
Cool.
All right, so now I'm gonna do the same thing over here.
Well, and then there was a guy asking about adding a gas strut, or saying he wanted to do that, and I guess that's...
Yeah, I think I've suggested that before I knew people were sticking nickels under places. But we could probably do potentially 2 more. I mean, it's better. It at least holds it up.
Yeah. Once we have that tech plate on there, though, that adds just enough weight.
All right, so we put 2 nickels in. We put 1 down on, I'll call it the bottom, and 1 on the top up here. Those are 2 locations. They seem to fit there just fine. It operates fine. I'm all out of money, but I think what I'll probably do is I'll grab 2 more nickels and put them under the top and bottom here, so 4 total, and see how that preload works. I suppose if there's space, you could add more. I know some people will add 2 in just in each of these locations. So we're adding a ton of preload to this spring. The other alternative would be to replace the spring, but for us that would be kind of probably a custom design project and a whole thing. So I would love it if there's a nice, cheap, simple solution just like this. I'm not going to bother spending any more time on this until we've got the panel here. The next thing I'm going to do is pull this bottom cover off, the plastic trim here, so that we can attach the panel to it. It looks like we've got a single Torx screw here. I believe that's a T20. We'll pull that off, and then I'm betting the rest of this is going to be secured by some clips. And then up at the top, where there's those two plastic latches that engage with the console, we will need to press those in. Don't lose that screw. All right, so I'm pulling on this. I've released what feels like 2 clips right here, and I'm just going to gently, carefully work my way up. I'll note I've had the truck inside for a couple of hours here. I always like to work on trim pieces like this, plastics. When the truck is warmer, they're less likely to crack or break clips. The next thing you're going to feel is tension on these right here. And they can kind of get in the way. So we're going to push them in. I'm going to start on my side here. Use a screwdriver to help me push it in. Release that tension. And then I'll come around to that side and do the same thing. Beautiful. This looks very, very similar to what I've seen under other center consoles from Ford. So does this. So I think what we'll do is we'll mock up the panel on this, and we'll give it a shot. I'm going to plan to use the outside slots here close to the end, so that even with our longer bolts, longer screws, we're not going to interfere with this plate here, where it's just where it's the most shallow. But with those spacers, I think we got tons of space here, so let's get to it. Because this is it's tight between these two, I can't set the panel on flat to mock it up. So I'm spacing it out with the actual spacers that we'll be using, and then we'll mark our holes for drilling. I'm not going to have it touch here, but I'm going to have it close. The other thing that I will do is I will typically mark out 1 or 2 drill locations, do that, bolt it up, and then I'll mark the other 2. Just in case the drill bit walks a little bit, we have a little bit of wiggle room. Kind of a measure twice, drill twice situation. So I'm lining up these spacers with the slots. I'm putting them inside. You notice I'm moving them in from just the outside of this totally. That's going to help us leave a little bit of wiggle room if we need to adjust as we're bolting everything down. But I'm happy with where these 2 are, so I'm going to go ahead and mark these. So I'm going to use a 5/16 drill bit. You can see it's pretty big for the size of this screw. This is a number 12. But because we're going to use a washer on the back and a spacer on the front, we have a bunch of wiggle room. I'd rather end up a little large on this, again, just so I can make the panel really nice and perfect in the first shot. I'm going to try not to drill into the tailgate of my truck here. We use the BuiltRight box for safety. Shaving a little bit of the rib off of this to make space for our washer to sit nice and flat in there. My knife is not super sharp right now, and it's not having any problems, so the sharper the knife, the safer this little activity will be. Now I'm going to put these spacers back out here, put the panel on here, and I'm going to drop screws. Oh, you know what? Let's go all the way. I'm going to drop screws all the way through so that we know our next 2 holes will line up with the 2 that we've already drilled. So I'm going to get the panel squared up again here the way that I'm happy with. I like that. I'm going to move these spacers into place. I'll do this one last time. This time should be for real. I'm going to start these 2 and then use the nuts and washers on the back side. Just a little those finger tight.
Yeah.
This is just kind of to show that the longer screws, they seem long, but once there's a spacer in there through the plate, it's actually a pretty nice fit. So we're gonna go ahead and reinstall this. I'm gonna start at the top, making sure that we clear this latch. I can depress it like this, and we'll see what happens. There we are. We just re-engaged. All right, so I'm gonna throw that screw in there because I'm feeling optimistic. And we'll do a test shot.
Sounds good. Looks a little
And
heavier.
and then I'm gonna go find 2 more nickels.
The 20-cent mod.
Uh-huh. So maybe we need to make springs. We'll see. Okay. All right, moment of truth. That's just fine. I just really don't want to put a screwdriver through my finger today. That feels like what I'm playing with when I'm doing this. I got my third nickel in there. All right, so we've got our panel on here. Trim is reinstalled. We reinstalled this Torx screw. We got our nickels under the springs. This is still pretty heavy. Obviously, we're adding weight to it. We've experimented with a composite panel. This is maybe the push we need to be doing that. But I'm going to reinstall this trim piece, and then we may explore the idea of being able to put a gas strut or gas spring in here in order to help keep this open and open it a little bit more forcefully. Put a ball of tinfoil in here.
See how much space.
And see how much space. So with that, we've installed our tech plate in the center console of our 23 Raptor here. As you can see, we've put a couple of things on here to demonstrate what you might attach to this panel. Personally, I find myself using the flashlight most often. Ton of pros, a ton of reasons to do this. If there was kind of one con, which you guys have already seen, it's just that it makes the heavy center console lid even heavier. We've done that nickel mod, which you saw. We'll continue to experiment with there, see if there's a replacement spring or possibly like a gas strut solution we might be able to come up with, because it would be really helpful for it to kind of pop open more quickly. But generally speaking, really helpful, really useful, very easy. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, feedback, and we'll look for you next week.